Hello. Here we are reading Healing the Child Within, and Chapter 7 starts now. The role of stress and post-traumatic stress disorder. The post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a condition that may so affect someone that not only is a child within stifled and stunted, but the person often becomes overtly ill from repeated stress and its extreme traumas. The PTSD interacts with dynamics of codependence to such an extent that these two conditions often overlap. What Kritzberg described as chronic shock among children of alcoholics can be equated to PTSD. PTSD may occur across a spectrum of manifestations, from fear or anxiety to depression, to easy irritability, to impulsive or even explosive behavior. To determine whether PTSD is present, the DSM-3 suggests that the following four conditions be present. Recognizable stressor. The first is the history or the ongoing presence of a recognizable stressor. Some examples of this and degrees of stressors are shown in the DSM-3 and are reported in a modified form on Table 7 below. While there are countless other examples, I have italicized several of the stressors found among troubled and dysfunctional families. Table 7. Severity rating of psychological stressors from the DSM-3. So it's going to go from no apparent stressor to catastrophic stressor. So no apparent stressor. No apparent psychological stressor in adults. Child example. No apparent psychological stressor. Minimal psychological stressor, an adult example. A minor violation of the law, a small bank loan. I'm not sure what I'm reading right now. A child example of a minimal stressor, vacation with family. A mild stressor for an adult, argument with a neighbor, change in work hours. An example for a child, change in school teacher, new school year. A moderate example of a stressor for an adult, new career, death of a close friend, pregnancy. An example for a child, chronic parental fighting, change to a new school, illness of a close relative, sibling birth. Number 5, severe example of a stressor for an adult, serious illness in self or family, major financial loss, marital separation, birth of child. A child example of a severe stressor. Death of a peer, divorce of parents, arrest, hospitalization, persistent and harsh parental discipline. Extreme stressor for an adult. Death of a close relative or divorce. Example for a child. Death of a parent or sibling, repeated psychological or sexual abuse. And a catastrophic stressor. Example for an adult, concentration camp experience, devastating natural disaster. And for a child, multiple family deaths. Okay? From this short list of examples, one can see that stressors are commonly found in families and environments that tend to stifle the true self. However, to determine the presence of PTSD, this type of stressor must be outside the usual range of human experience. Examples of such stressors may include assault, rape, other sexual abuse, serious physical injury, torture, concentration camp experience, floods, earthquakes, military combat, and the like. I believe, as do others, that growing up in or living in a seriously troubled or dysfunctional family or similar environment often brings about is associated with PTSD. The PTSD is said to be more damaging and more difficult to treat if 1. The traumas occurred over a prolonged period of time, longer than 6 months, and especially if 2, the traumas are human or of human origin, or if 3, those around are affected person tend to deny the existence of any stressors or stress. All 3 are present in actively alcoholic families and similarly troubled families. Re-experiencing the trauma. The second condition or manifestation of the re-experiencing of the trauma. This may be a history or recurrent or intrusive recollection of the trauma. Recurrent bad dreams or nightmares are sudden symptoms of re-experiencing the trauma, often with rapid heart rate, panic, and sweating. Psychic numbing. An outstanding characteristic of child within or true self is it feels and expresses feelings. The codependent or false self denies and covers up genuine feelings. This advanced condition called psychic numbing is characteristic of PTSD. It may be manifested by a constriction or absence of feeling and of expressing feelings, which often results in a sense of estrangement, withdrawal, isolation, or alienation. Another manifestation may be a decreased interest in important life activities. Describing psychic numbing, Cermak writes, during moments of extreme stress, combat soldiers are often called upon to act regardless of how they are feeling. Their survival depends upon their ability to suspend feeling in favor of taking steps to ensure their safety. Unfortunately, this resulting split between one's self and one's experience does not heal easily. It does not gradually disappear with the passage of time until an active process of healing takes place. The individual continues to experience the constriction of feelings, a decreased ability to recognize which feelings are present, and a persistent sense of being cut off from one's surroundings, depersonalization. These add up to conditions known as psychic numbing. Other symptoms. Another symptom of PTSD is hyper-alertness or hyper-vigilance. The person is so affected and fearful about continued stress that he or she is consistently on the alert for any and all potential similar stressors or dangers and how to avoid them. Yet another symptom is survival guilt. For example, guilt felt after escaping or avoiding some trauma when others are still in that trauma. While survivor guilt is said to lead to the feelings that the survivor has betrayed or abandoned others, and often then to chronic depression, I believe that several other factors lead to chronic depression, primarily the stifling of the child within. Another symptom may be avoiding activities associated with the trauma. This final symptom is not listed in the DSM-3, is multiple personalities. People with multiple personalities often come from highly troubled, stressful, and dysfunctional families. Perhaps multiple personalities are often offshoots of the false or codependent self, driven in part by the energies of the true self to express itself. Cermak suggests that the dynamics of the condition known as the adult child of alcoholic, or COA syndrome, or other similar terms, are a combination of PTSD and codependence. From my experience, the treating of ACOAs and following them in their recovery, as well as treating adult children from other troubled or dysfunctional families, I believe that PTSD and codependence are likely to be a part of many troubled or dysfunctional families. I further believe that PTSD is but an extreme extension of a broad condition that results from stifling the true self in any form. When we are not allowed to remember to express our feelings and we grieve or mourn our losses or traumas, whether real or threatened, through the free expression of our child within, we become ill. Thus, we can consider viewing a spectrum of unresolved grieving as beginning with mild symptoms or signs of grief to codependence to PTSD. A common thread in this spectrum is the blocked expression of our true self. Treatment of PTSD consists of a long-term group therapy with others who suffer from the condition, and usually as needed shorter-term individual counseling. Many of the treatment principles for healing our child within are helpful in treating PTSD. Cermak said, "Those therapists who work successfully with this population have learned to honor the client's need to keep the lid on his or her feelings. The most effective and therapeutic process involving swinging back and forth between uncovering feelings and covering them up again. And it is precisely this ability to modulate their feelings that PTSD clients have lost. They must feel secure that their ability to close their emotions down will never be taken away from them, but instead will be honored as an important tool for living. The initial goal of therapy here is to help the client move more freely into their feelings with the assurance that they can find distance from them again and they may begin to overwhelm. Once children from chemically dependent homes, adults, children of alcoholics, and other PTSD clients become confident that you are not going to strip them of their survival mechanism, they are more likely to allow their feelings to emerge, if only for a moment. And that moment will be a start. And this will be the end of this reading, because that is the end of chapter 7. Thank you. Goodbye.